I said in a past video that coaching does matter. But my question now has changed to, if the coaching is considered superior than most teams, then why does the team, well, let's be nice, underperforms? And how much longer does the underperformance become the staple? And then you realize that no amount of good coaching could fix it. Or do you believe in denial and just keep moving forward? Hopefully that this time it will work. Boy, that sums up the Chargers, doesn't it? Hey everybody, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic, and welcome back. We are concluding the AFC West 2025 recap of the NFL season as we conclude and talk about the Los Angeles Chargers, still the second greatest LA team currently in circus. Because it is a circus. I'm not happy either. Okay. So, Charger fans. I feel like we can just continue moving forward and say that they're never coming back to San Diego. LA is their home, and well, let's just say that the first few years of investment has not really produced new fans. In fact, it made the Rams probably much more superior in the fan base. So, good job, guys. You're basically the New York Mets of LA NFL football. Congratulations, the second class. You'll join yourself with the Clippers and have fun time there. The Chargers is a team that once again made the playoffs, but we all thought they may have higher, expectations. We thought that I thought so, that they had a chance to win the division. Take it from the Chiefs finally. And, well, they kind of took it from the Chiefs, or maybe the Chiefs just submarined their season themselves. But the Chargers did, make the playoffs, which we have seen this song and dance before. I mean, we've seen the script. They have done it before. And then they showcase the worst performance of the entire season in the most crucial game in the playoffs. I mean, Charger fans, please tell me, which one's worse? The Patriot loss in the playoffs or the Texans loss in the playoffs? Now, some might say the Jacksonville game, but I'm talking recently. And I can't help but feel I still think the Houston is the biggest loss because the Chargers came in a lot, with more fire and tenacity, and Houston defense woke up, I guess. But this season, I had you at high marks, 11-6. Just enough to make the playoffs. At worst case, maybe not win the division, but make the playoffs almost comfortably. But if somehow there was a hiccup or two and you guys happened to choke game, you probably should have won, then 9-8 and probably just missed the 7th seed and missed the playoffs. But you went 11-6, so therefore, for the first time so far, I was right! Kinda saying that was your ceiling. I could have sworn I also said you guys at least win the first round, too, if I remember correctly. But it doesn't matter. You guys didn't win the Super Bowl, and I had no anticipation of you even getting to the conference championship. So let's keep our expectations, in the realm of reality. But here is something when I do these videos, because, there are 32 teams, and I try to give every team a chance to be recognized, get a little bit of a, acknowledgement on that ESPN and NFL Network probably should have been doing when it comes to NFL teams. But, that's a lot of teams to do, and quite frankly, I don't have the budget. But they have the budget. What's their excuse? Anyway, looking at the teams, trying to find their MVP, their best game, their worst games, and sometimes you'll witness the best games, and sometimes you've seen the worst games, and sometimes you want to take a little deep dive into the schedules, make sure your stats, make sure the numbers are right. Hopefully you don't make a bundle or blunder. I do sometimes, but it's fun, part of the show, part of the journey together. Then the Chargers went 11-6. Here is the part of me that I surprisingly, maybe Charger fans know this because their job is to watch and report on the Chargers. Looking at the Chargers season, and it makes sense to where the segue is going. Your best game, Charger fans, and some of you may even say, really, that's the best game? And I'm like, fight me on this. Week 14 versus Philadelphia. That to me was your best game on the grounds of two things. One, it was your most playoff contending team that you have beaten. Yeah, yeah. And I have not put this in stone yet, but it's probably also because it's Philadelphia's one of Philadelphia's, pardon me, worst performance of the year, and they had several. This is a game where the turnover is the biggest variable to consider. There were 5 turnovers by Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts threw 4 interceptions in this game. It still went to overtime, and the Chargers pull away with a last-second field goal in overtime. But think about it. Philadelphia had nearly over 100 yards more than the Chargers' total offense. The sack was a big factor, and time possession was clearly in the Chargers' bucket corner. But the big thing is the turnovers. We have seen time and time again, you win the turnover battles, stats go out the window, because 9 times out of 10, you would win the game. And this is one of those examples where Philadelphia was probably the better team, at least looking at it statistically. But those 4 interceptions by your starting quarterback, I don't care if you're Tom Brady or Brady named Tom, that's not going to win you anything in any level of football, from Pop Warner, flag football, YMCA, to the pros, to Division III, where have you. You're not going to win. And this is the thing that makes me upset. This is the Chargers' best game based on opponent, and that is really it. Listen, for those that did not pay attention to it, these are your victories who you had. Week 1, you beat the Chiefs. Week 2, you beat the Raiders. Week 3, you beat the Denver Broncos. Now, I have always never counted the first 4 games of the year because I believe since teams don't play their starters in the preseason very well, effectively, we don't know what they are. And I believe the first 4 weeks of the season, the first month anyway, is a litmus test to see what do we have. How many players have lost a step? How many rookies are developing? And how many times have you seen teams go 2-3 and then they go 14-3? Or they go 1-3 and then they go 11-6 and then make the playoff. We have seen it season in, season out. So the first 4 weeks, I never count. So that's 3 of your wins there, and then you lost to the Giants, which I consider one of it, but that's the first 4 window games, so you don't get that. So, after your win against the Denver Broncos, this is your next wins. At Miami, Vikings, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Raiders again, Philadelphia, the Chiefs, the game where Mahomes tore his ACL and lost the season officially for the Chiefs, the Cowboys, with no defense, and that's it. So, which one, I think I can safely say, which one had the better, like, you beat them? And even now, because the Chiefs look bad, that win against the Chiefs, where Mahomes tore his ACL, that game doesn't sound as promising. 1, Mahomes got hurt, and 2, the Chiefs were just as struggling bad, like most bad teams at that time of the year. So which is your best game? By default is Philadelphia because you have no one else. Now your worst game, that was a lot easier because losses emphasizes more. Took place at week 11 at Jacksonville. This was a game that I'm sure the Jaguar faithful were thinking, we beat the Chargers. We feel good. We feel great. You can do it. And then we realized it was empty calories. The win didn't really do anything. It just kind of showed you that, okay, so if you play the Chargers in the first round, you might feel more confident. But Chargers, look at these stats here. Look at the stats. You had 42 yards rushing, 93 yards passing, 135 yards total offense, 22 minutes of time of possession. Jacksonville had 192 rushing. They only threw the ball 153 times. When you run the ball for 200 yards, you don't have to. Nearly 350 yards of offense and nearly 30 8 minutes of clock. But when you run the ball that much, I guess it makes sense. That's your worst game. I mean, hindsight 2020, it's the only game that really had the big significant impact because it was a game that's supposed to be against a playoff contention. It was towards the second half of the season, so matchup became more critical, and this loss was bad. This was a bad game. And what's really sad is that it reminded me of the Charge when they had the game against Tampa years back, where they're at home. They had like the like top tier rush defense, and then the Bucks come in up and down, up and down. They put 40 on you. It just feels like the Chargers are destined to have a game where it just feels like everything's going right, and then they fall in the mud and they get stuck in it. To a team, funny enough, both from Florida. Granted, one he went to Jacksonville, one came to Los Angeles, but still, it's the fact that the Chargers just have a game where it's like, okay, who are they? Who are they really? And sadly, Charger fans, with the loss to the Patriots, just adds more to who are they? We have Harbaugh, but I guess Harbaugh is more of a title than actual, credibility, I guess. Regular season's good, but playoffs is where you want to hopefully at least get past the first round, at least get a playoff win for Justin Herbert. Nothing. Nothing. So, going to your MVP. Initially, I was thinking of Justin Herbert. He was the quarterback. He led you guys to victories, yada, yada, yada. But then looking at his stats closely, nothing really kind of leapt out at me that made me go, yeah. It was kind of like, above average quarterback could probably have similar stats numbers. The wins you had didn't really show anything, so I'm doing it again, but I'm giving it to the fans of Los Angeles, the Charger fans that go into games, that wear the bolt, some that were from San Diego, and some coming here. I give them the credit as the Chargers. They are the MVP. So, sorry, but they are. They deal with this week in and week out, and they deserve better, whether they're from San Diego or here in Los Angeles. So, now, when it comes to the draft, the Chargers, I feel like they have a lot of holes for a team that had 11 wins. And a lot of them seem very glaring, and some seem like maybe they would. The Chargers feel like a team that are filled with B-plus talent, so no big stars. Impact for the team, but no really big stars on it. And because rewatching the highlights of Herbert's game against the Patriots, the amount of sacks he's getting, I just can't help but feel like maybe they need to take care of that interior offensive line. And Harbaugh liked getting the offensive line. That's how he won in Michigan. Run the ball, strong offensive line, solid defense. So the Chargers picking at, what was it, 22nd? Yeah, with the 22nd overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, I have the Chargers selecting
Vega Ionaway.
guard Penn State. So he's the best interior offensive lineman. I feel like the Chargers have solidified their outside tackles. So you want to protect the inside for Herbert and maybe open the inside running lane. We saw what Quentin Nelson did for the Colts when he came into the league. He was a guard and it was effective for the Colts. So I will say they will do the same thing here. Now, if for whatever reason they decide to go a different route because there are other needs there too, I'm worried about the defensive line on the other side, mainly the interior side. And for the players I have in mind for them to pick up, I have currently Caden McDonald, a defensive tackle, Ohio State, as a potential, acquisition. We all know Khalil Mack is coming back to the Chargers, so the pass rush there. Joey Bosa has long been gone, and their most recent acquisition or player that made an impact last year has gone to greener pastures. So, with that being said, I have an option for their other one. If they decide to go defensive line again, I will have Caleb Banks, defensive tackle out of Florida, as potentially being another option there. Or they go with Hakeem Misner, defensive end, edge rusher, Miami. Those are probably other options that I would consider too for the Chargers to potentially get some pass rush in there, or at least stop the running attack that was so successful. But I can't help but feel it because of Harbaugh being the offensive-minded guru. He will go interior offensive line with the guard from Penn State that I'm having a hard time pronouncing the name. But don't worry, we will just and use that audio clip moving forward. Grade for the Chargers, not taking into consideration the playoff because that's not fair, but just taking a regular season, I'm gonna say the Chargers a B plus team. They're B minus, B plus. The level of wins they had were not that great, and then the ones they did win, if you look close, like the Philadelphia game, you start thinking it's kind of like they won, yes, but it kind of has that argument of they lost, we didn't win, but we'll take the credit for the W. And sometimes you just have to accept the W as it is. So to me, that is the grade for the Chargers moving forward. And that concludes the AFC West recap. And like I always do, I always like to stay in the West. So we're going to go to the NFC side. And we're going to start with the NFC West by discussing with Arizona Cardinals, the one team that didn't make the playoff and probably had the biggest, surprise, or maybe not so surprised by the time of this recording. Kyler Murray is no longer a Cardinal, and he has signed with the Minnesota Vikings. So, spoiler surprise when the video comes out about the Cardinals. So, we'll see what the Cardinals can do in the desert because they look like they have more problems than just releasing Kyler Murray. So, until next time, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic. Thank you so very much for watching.